Hi, I'm Amin,
I'm David.
I'm Aaron.
and welcome to the Intelli-Gents podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the second episode of the Intelli-Gents podcast.
Right, it's been a bit longer than 2 weeks, but we're back with another video, and without anything else, we're gonna get straight into it. And I think it's impossible not to talk about what happened this week with regards to Bitcoin. We saw a massive investment by Elon Musk, and it's finally clear what his questionable tweet that he made on the 20th December was all about. As he's begun accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment as well now.
Yeah, so Tesla announced that it bought about $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. So this has really driven up the price of the value of Bitcoin in the past week to over £34,000.
I think it's crazy because I think one of the things that the pandemic has done is essentially made paper currency and coins and everything kind of irrelevant to an extent. And a lot more. So, for example, MasterCard and BNY Mellon have started investing in Bitcoin and buying stocks of Bitcoin, which has also caused the price to be driven up. But I essentially feel like that's kind of like internet payment of stuff is definitely going to be the future. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting a lot bigger. I think the main reason for this jump in price, we're seeing loads of investment and stimulus by countries around the world. USA paid 2.2 trillion last year. There's going to be quite a lot of inflation. Well, I'm expecting to see quite a lot of inflation this year, and it's no surprise that we're seeing loads of people investing in Bitcoin. But I think we've got to question how sustainable we think it is. How usable is it? Because I know Bitcoin is very, very volatile. There's no real no safeguard for its value. It could jump 5-10% every day. So it's quite a risky decision. Right? It's quite a risky decision.
It's so expensive. So how do you get just one Bitcoin? Do you have to buy it to convert it from your own currency like pounds or dollars?
Well,
into
I know
Bitcoin?
It's you get it by you mine, and the process of mining is they solve an algorithm, and they're rewarded with some form of Bitcoin. And I think the main thing that holds the Bitcoin's value is just the demand, really. It's not as a very sustainable.
Yeah, there's been a lot of news about this past week about if Bitcoin was a country, it would use more electricity than Argentina, and I think that's just really astounding.
The mining process is quite arduous, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's made artificially difficult to mine because if they made it super easy, then everyone would have a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would lose its value.
I think it's crazy though, bro. There's like thinking about mining Bitcoin, like mining a currency. That's so weird, man. But it's crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff, especially when you look at the jumps in prices and you're thinking, man, if only I would have invested when it was low, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've had loads of stories out there. If even a year ago, it's jumped 300% in just around a year. It's insane how much it's picked up this.
Bro, in like a couple of months, man. Yeah, a couple of months it's grown. Yeah.
It's massive. I'm sure we'll see quite a few more companies investing in it as well. I remember PayPal last year mentioned they're going to start dealing with Bitcoin. I'm sure you heard about that. There's a lot of other companies that are going to start using cryptocurrencies as well. So it's a big thing. We've got to keep looking out for it. But it's once again a really, really risky decision by Elon Musk, putting 1.5 billion into a risky asset that could easily just lose its value. Like how do you price a car? Say he's selling a car and he's asking for a form of payment in Bitcoin. That price could change 5-10% over the course of like a day.
Yeah,
it's going to be difficult. I think the value we've seen it a lot. You see a tweet about. We had this situation with Dogecoin as well, didn't we? With Elon Musk tweeting about it, and it just jumps in value. I think Bitcoin's it's not as secure as it seems. I think quite a lot of its value comes from social media, really. People tweeting about it, hearing about it, they don't really know what it's about, but they want to get in on it, and just because it's been rising and rising.
Yeah, and obviously the fact that there's now after the whole Reddit kind of situation in the Wall Street Reds, there's a lot more kind of your retail investors that are just going in because they can, because they want to see these big returns, you know? So.
Yeah, definitely. So do you think that in the future we'll see a more stable version of cryptocurrency coming out, or do you think
it could go
volatile?
either way, couldn't it? Because you could either on one hand it'll keep going up, the value of it's going to rise to well, a Bitcoin could be what you could see it becoming worth way more if it goes the same way like an asset like gold did a while back. In terms of how much there is available, I think it could very easily just keep going up. On the other hand, it comes out that it's not as secure as it seems, and we see its price crash straight back down. Could see both of those happening.
Because
I don't know what
the
you
idea of
think.
cryptocurrency is so clever, because a traditional currency is just like money, like coins, paper. It's just a transfer of value. So
Exactly.
by making it digital, is really smart the way that they do dealings with it, and I feel like there is definitely a lot of potential in the future.
The regular, obviously, with paying with cryptocurrency, you don't have the same kind of regulations that you would paying it with other ways of paying with cash and paying over bank transfer and anything like that. So I think it's going to be pretty hard to stop the rise of Bitcoin, really. I mean, we're just going to see more and more companies using it to avoid the regulations. But I think it does take quite a while, I'm pretty sure. So unless we see some kind of improvement, the transaction process is quite long with Bitcoin, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, Armin.
Yeah.
Do you know? So, when was Bitcoin worth $1?
Well, it was actually worth $1 in like February of 2011, which is crazy, man. Just thinking about like for how much it is now. If we're thinking about it in US dollars, it's about what 49K now, or 14, yeah, something crazy. Yeah, but like thinking that essentially just what under like 10 years ago, it was only $1, man. And if you would have bought like 4 of those, then you could have 100,000. Like that's insane, man.
It's insane. I had a lot more money to spend on a nice car if I'd invested a while back. Be unfortunate.
Yeah. So have you heard of those people that had $200,000 worth of Bitcoin in their wallets and they forgot the password to it?
I heard about that.
Stuff like that happens all the time, man. I know that that influencer Jake Paul, he lost his account to some of his cryptocurrencies and he's lost a bunch of money, which is so insane. Like, that's so... And I think it really makes sense because I guess this growth has been steady but has kind of blown up recently.
The last few
obviously
months,
if you invested like ages ago, then you're more likely to forget because you're like, you know what, this probably won't be worth much later on down the line. You know, allow it. I don't really need to remember it that much. But now, yeah, you know, so many people with regrets. I'm pretty sure one person threw away. He had a letter basically that said he owned a bunch of Bitcoin worth like a crazy amount of money, and he threw it away basically. And he was looking.
Yeah, I heard. I'm not sure if it's the same story, but a guy threw it away and he asked the council to go through the dump to try and find it.
And he goes there now, to look through the bins.
And he offered to give them like 10% of the Bitcoin, and now he raised it to 25% that he'd give back to the council. But they still denied it because it would take so much effort to go through that much rubbish just to find a USB stick or whatever, a hard drive just with the Bitcoin in it.
Yeah, I know he's hurting. What was it? 7 attempts that man had to guess his password. He failed it on the 7th, and I know he said he was all right and he wasn't bothered because it's when you think about it, he didn't. Obviously, he owned the money, but he didn't have access to it, so you can't say it was like he's lost the money. I guess it's not a massive loss if he bought it a long time ago.
Yeah,
but that must be horrible. I can't imagine that.
Yeah,
but it's so weird because it's like essentially now stocks are just becoming like a lottery. Do you know what I mean? Like you just put in a little £1-2 here, and yeah, it blows up. It's insane. It's insane. I have a question though. What would you guys? Let's just say we all invested $4 worth of Bitcoin, right? So that's about So back in the day, back in 2011, we all invested $4 essentially, and we bought four.
And
four
it's
Bitcoin,
worth 50.
right?
It's worth 50k now, right?
Yeah, but
$50,000 now.
It's around. Let's just say if we use in US, it's around 35k now, right? So what times 4? That's 140k. What would you guys use that money to buy?
I think there's got to be a surfing home somewhere, a house out in Hawaii maybe. I don't know if you can afford that
Really?
with a couple hundred. Yeah, surfing, man, great sport. I'd probably get a nice new board. I'd probably be living in the Caribbean or something by now.
This is the thing, bro. Like, so would you plan to live away from the UK in the future then?
If you could afford it, I don't see why you wouldn't. I mean, after this, like, what we had, like a week of solid snow and ice.
That's fair.
It's a little bit cold.
Yeah, I suppose. But people who live in the tropical countries might want to experience the snow sometimes. But I don't think it's something that you might want to live with for the whole of your life, like the cold weather.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, half the time in the summer it's raining as well. I don't see the best.
Aaron, man, what would you buy? What would you buy with your 4?
What would I buy?
Yeah.
You see, I would probably invest it. I would invest it.
Invest it again.
I mean, yeah, I'd invest again. It's like, what's it? It's like a flywheel. You use the money that you get from investing and invest it again.
I have a question then. Would you keep so you've bought this 4 Bitcoin, right? And you technically have 4 Bitcoin, right? And now your 4 Bitcoin is worth 140. Would you keep your money in Bitcoin? So would you keep your ownership of the 4 Bitcoin, or would you take the money out and spend it somewhere else?
I probably would take half out and invest in other.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be pretty
companies.
risky to leave it in something like Bitcoin that could easily lose all its value. There's often hedge fund managers, they normally put their money in probably slightly more reliable sources of stocks. So I think
yeah, probably invest in a
decision.
company.
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
Thing is, company investment's just weird, man. Because especially now, I think it's just one of the worst times to be investing in. Because it's always speculation, but now it's just so crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure tech companies will be thriving right now. That's the main one, I think.
But you know what? And I was reading up about this, and it really shocked me. Topman and Topshop have been bought by ASOS, and this is, these shops I never thought would go under, man. Topman, I don't know. It was just kind of like it's a staple, like, shop that you'd find in any shopping mall. Do you know what I mean? You always go to Topman to try out a suit or try on some shoes, and they're always really expensive. Yeah, and it usually, there'll be and it's gone now, man. That's so weird. It just goes to show that really.
To think that they, like 10 years ago, you wouldn't have thought that they would have gone, but now because of the COVID pandemic, it's just destroyed so many businesses.
Exactly.
That, you wouldn't have thought gone under. But it's also an opportunity for investing, because now that they're at an all-time low, they can either go down under, or they could rocket because of new investment from other companies.
Well, so yeah, now that they've been bought by ASOS, I think that's so clever, man. ASOS, I know that ASOS have been making a lot of money under the pandemic, and that's obviously true because it's an online store, obviously, and you get the clothes within like a couple of days. It was always going to do well, and if you think about it, the pandemic has really been good for these online stores for clothes, because a lot of people have been forced to look online as opposed to go out, and yeah, it's incredible, man.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I had Amazon Prime for the first time this year. Something I've never had before. I had to make the purchase. So I mean, my money's going straight into Jeff Bezos' pocket, but I had to spend it somewhere, because spending at home, you don't spend much really. Obviously, you're not getting much either. Yeah. But I think the thing with staying at home, you don't spend very much money. Well, that was my situation at least. So I thought, I might as well go and get Disney. We've got Disney Plus as well. Amazon Prime, we've got all of them now.
And these streaming services are just capitalizing because everyone's at home watching movies.
Exactly.
And stuff,
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it probably would have been the best time to buy Netflix shares or Amazon shares at the beginning of the pandemic, because they
should have seen that one coming, I think. all the video sharing companies. I'm sure there was a funny video. What was it last week? I'm sure you saw the video. The woman who was the woman on a Zoom call, and she accidentally left her filter on, and she was in the Zoom call as a cat, which was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, no, that was pretty funny, man. It just shows. I'm pretty sure it was a guy, I swear, But
yeah, it
Was it a
his
guy?
it was his assistant's computer.
Yeah.
And he was on it.
and it was
and
a
he just didn't know
court
how to
case as
operate the
well.
filter.
It was a court case, man.
Yeah,
That's
it's proper
hilarious.
court
Oh,
case.
imagine that was your lawyer, man. You're going to jail.
But you know what?
You're finished.
It's crazy. I love that we have stuff like that in the world. Like, it's such a bleak time, man, and we can just there's just random hilarious things going on. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a massive conversion from online towards online video calling, obviously, because there's no alternative.
Man.
Everyone's working from home.
Yeah, video conferencing has been like a saviour during this past year because you can connect with your family who live abroad that you wouldn't usually have been able to see during the pandemic. Say we didn't have technology, and we've also got online schooling. We can go to school in inverted commas, but you know,
But
it's better than not getting taught at all, isn't it?
100%. It's been insane because I don't know, man. If you think that, like, we were thinking, okay, everything's gonna be online, and everyone's kind of like umming and ahhing and like, oh, how good is it? And it's basically the same, just at your own house. The school is amazing, and essentially you're making more connections now. Now that everyone is using stuff like, you know, Teams and Meet and Skype and all this and Zoom. Everyone's so usually relatives, you know, older relatives who you never thought would. They're now using it. Everyone's using it, and it's pretty cool.
I'll come back in, guys. Sorry about that. Bit of awkward silence there.
I think my signal cut out there.
Listening after that, okay, well, hopefully we're going to be back in school soon, I guess.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see.
I saw an article the other day on BBC, and they said that students will overall lose £40,000 in their life earnings due to the pandemic. Do you think this is a valid claim?
I'm not entirely sure where that one's coming from. I know we're missing out on a bit of learning, but it's nothing that can't be relearned in a few weeks over the summer holidays or something like that. Summer school is going to be a big thing this year.
I don't know how can you like effectively calculate that, like, how can you tell that for 40,000
exactly
you'd be losing 40,000? And I think
it'd be interesting to find out where they got that calculation from.
But no, 100%, it's definitely weird. I feel like as long as everyone kind of takes everything into account, which schools have been doing, you know, with like pushing back and cancelling exams, as long as everyone's kind of taking that into account, then it doesn't really feel too dangerous, the situation, you know? I don't feel like I'm losing too much. Now, one of the things that is unfortunate, actually, is obviously, as students, we have drive, right? Like, us three, we have drive to kind of get on top of our learning, right? Now, I know, and I'm sure you guys know, a lot of there are some students out there who don't have that same drive to kind of get on top of their notes. You know, like, the people that you know that if they didn't have to, they wouldn't get on top of their notes, you know? So I feel like for them, it's a lot worse. And I feel like that's where the real danger is. When you're at home, you allow yourself to be more relaxed, right? And it's really scary to think that obviously there are people there that aren't listening to the lessons, that are probably still in bed acting like they're listening, and that is a really scary thought.
Yeah, we just gotta hope that the vaccine goes as planned and we can be back in school as soon as possible. I think.
Yeah, man. They've said the 8th, which is sooner than I thought. I can't lie.
It's not very far away now. What is it? A month and a bit.
A month and a bit, man. Yeah. Well, no, less than a month. 8th.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's 3.5 weeks.
Oh gosh, I'm in the wrong month.
Or is it 3 weeks time?
3 weeks.
It's around about that.
We're gonna be back in school. That's insane, man.
I mean, we could be. Depends on whether Boris.
Yeah, he's mentioned the date. It'll be from the 8th of March, won't it? So we'll have to.
So last weekend we talked about the vaccine a bit, and we were talking about how we didn't think the vaccine was going to be as effective, but actually, I take it back because I feel like it's been a lot more effective. My mum has been vaccinated as well, which is insane, right? So
that's good news, yeah.
Right, it's been so fast, hasn't it?
Yeah, I still feel like I was talking to one of the teachers the other day, and the thing is, a lot of teachers kind of feel like they need to be vaccinated, which is 100% fair. Yeah. They come into contact with literally the whole school sometimes, right? So it's really important that they're vaccinated first. Well, not first, but, you know, like, relatively soon.
They've got to be some priority, yeah.
They should be, yeah.
But even with the vaccinations for over 70s, that going back to school is not going to slow down. It's not going to slow down the rate of infection because most people's parents likely won't have been vaccinated. Because
Yeah.
if we think about it, most parents are probably under like 55-ish, somewhere around there, and the teachers aren't vaccinated, the kids aren't vaccinated. There's not going to be any way of stopping it from getting around. Obviously, we're going to be.
So we're going to bring it back to home, aren't we?
Exactly. Yeah. So it'll just we'll just get it and pass it on back to our parents, and then we'll pick up again, and new variants are going to come along, and we're going to have to get another vaccine. And
I really think we're not at the end of this. Like, honestly, it's so scary, but like we've got this vaccine, and then we're getting new variants. I really think, I really feel like this ain't going to be the last lockdown as Boris wants it to be. If we're going back in these circumstances, I really don't feel like... I feel like a lot of schools are going to go back into that same, we have to close again, so...
Yeah, so would you rather... Because I've heard some scientists are proposing that students they have social distancing 2 meters apart at school. So would you rather social distance at school or learn at home?
I don't see how that's going to be possible.
I heard about this, and obviously we know what our school classrooms are like, bro. There's no way. There's no way we can socially distance in them, and it would just be awkward.
You could barely even fit in all the lessons into the sixth form area. I had a lesson in a class full of there were 16 chairs in the room. We had 17 people. We had to get a room change, but there's nowhere to go to. So it's going to be very difficult to be fitting people in around such a small area as well, because you can't have the whole school mixing. Otherwise, there's going to be no way of controlling who stays in school and who goes home. So
I feel like a 2 meter thing is just so it's just out of the question.
People proposing it haven't been in the class.
They haven't,
which are packed full of students.
Yeah, these are probably from some like high-end schools, man, because they just ain't enough space.
We're likely going to see. I reckon we'll see a few years going. I don't see how we could physically get every year back into school. Maybe just obviously exam years are important, but then at the same time, the younger years are also they're missing out on quite a lot of key learning that it all adds up in the end, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. A lot of people are like, really kind of, it's kind of adding up now. We're just kind of fed up. A lot of people are fed up with homeschool.
The novelty's kind of worn off, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like to an extent, it's like, I don't know. When you're in that school routine, and this is one of the reasons why I was excited upon finding out we're going back. When you're in that school routine, there's nothing like it, bro. You do a lot more because you have to do it, and therefore you feel a lot better afterwards because you've done it. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to now, I don't have to do stuff I don't want to. Now, actually, I would say I did prefer having this week at home because it was freezing outside, and if we had to be standing in the cold, I would have been very sad. but I feel like the fact that we're not going back means that we can be a lot more lazy. In lessons we don't really have to. And I feel like one of the things that schools should start doing, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I just thought it would be a really good opinion, is if they started like not forcing us, but asking us to turn on our webcams whilst we were in the lessons, because then it would even though it's quite I really don't want to, because a lot of people I understand that I really don't want to see my teachers and everyone else in their homes and stuff. It's a bit awkward, but I feel like otherwise there are students out there that are just staying in their beds or wondering that I'm going to catch these notes up later, and it's really affecting their learning. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's important, because having that kind of compulsion to look at a camera and you have to get dressed, you have to look ready. So yeah.
But is it really? I don't know. Is it their fault? Because it might just be their lifestyle, which means that they can't turn on their camera. Like their house, they might have I don't know. They might have a situation at home in which they can't turn on their camera.
I guess I know what you mean. There could be, I'm sure there are a load of crowded houses out there with if you've got a whole family of people working from home, you're gonna have people setting up in the kitchen and every other place. So I think
I still feel like though, the vast majority will probably conform to it. Do you know what I mean? Like the people who can will. It obviously not like a force, but I feel like it's kind of a healthy way of getting back into schooling, because going back to schooling is so unrealistic, right? And just kind of having that, okay, my teacher's gonna see me, bro. I have to get ready. I have to prepare. I have to be wearing clothes that aren't my pajamas. I have to have my notes out so that I'm, I feel like that would be a good way to kind of stunt.
I think the assessment system at the moment as well, in which, especially in my classes, we don't have to turn our cameras on at all. So we're getting tests set, and no way of really
Yeah.
seeing whether you're actually doing the test or if
Exactly.
you're searching up all the
If you're
answers online.
cheating,
So it's
bro.
And
very
these
difficult.
and these tests could count towards our final grades if there's another cancelled
Exactly.
exam
A-level,
season.
bro. You know, I
Yeah.
really
These
hope that
could
doesn't
count towards
happen.
our grades.
I really hope that doesn't happen, man.
I'd
really-
quite like to have the cameras back on. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of people as well. It'll be fun to see what they're looking like.
Yeah.
Who's grown the best beard or whatever.
That's the thing as well. That's another thing that I'm kind of missing, maybe, because I'm kind of social in the class. I miss talking to people in the classroom. You know, like people who you sit next to. Just that
Exactly.
classroom
Yeah.
banter. Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that we don't have that makes those lessons so much more dry when they get boring. Do you get me? Like you're so
Exactly, yeah.
much more bored because usually when it would get a bit boring, you talk to your mate and then you'd eventually get back into it and get focused again. You know, and we don't have that anymore. I feel like
Yeah.
having the cameras on.
It's
Is
a slight lack of concentration, and you're
Mm.
done for pretty much the whole lesson. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's very difficult to control, but I think hopefully we'll be back soon.
Online, you can also talk to people that you'd never actually talk to really at school because of like friendship bubbles and stuff. But online, say everyone's literally just in front of you and you can talk to anyone.
Yeah, and half the time, I mean, obviously when you're at school you can socialise whoever you want, but I feel like quite a lot of people probably not socialising with anyone at all. So we need to see a bit more on that side. Hopefully. We'll get
One
back
of the
soon.
things though is just as much as I don't think it's good to go back, if we do go back and it's looking likely that we will actually go back, I will be excited. Like come on, like seeing everyone again would just be amazing, man. Like just
It will
I've
be.
been in this bubble for so long, just going out, actually having that face to face connection with everyone again. It would be great. I can't lie.
On another note, I think it's time we shed some light on Trump's impeachment trial, which, as we saw, ended with his acquittal on Saturday, wasn't it, Armin?
Yes, and what ended with a 57-43 split in the Senate. But yeah, it's crazy. You know, from everyone else looking in on it from outside the US, we thought it was clear that he was going to get charged. It is very scary that essentially this man has been left to walk, but it really shows the strength of his cult, essentially, and the Republicans that sided with him.
Right, and so this situation all started with, obviously, first Trump was denying the results of the election. He was rejecting them. He was convinced that there was some problem with the balloting and the voting system, right?
Yeah, man, and the voter fraud and everything, the whole shambles
Exactly.
of the 2020 election, of course, and then you have his tweets and everything. I really think it just stems from how he really handled the situation with the Capitol Hill rioting. You know, not really pushing for the involvement of the military at all. And it's crazy because I was talking to my friends and it's really clear to see the differences between how he treats, you know, his supporters and everyone else, because we've seen the riots and the, you know, protesting back in the day in the events of the George Floyd murder and all the Black Lives Matter protesting and stuff, and the army were deployed really, really quickly. You know, they were there straight away. So it's crazy, but
Yeah, it's ridiculous how much freedom they got. They were taking photos with protesters, the police force. I think it's quite clear to see what side they're on, and it was how would this vote have had to have gone to impeach Donald Trump?
I think the Republicans needed to have gotten. I think 10 more Republicans would have needed to have voted,
so
or
Right.
67.
So yeah, it would have
67
had to
votes
be
in favour,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure.
Now, I guess if we're looking at the positives, this was the most kind of bipartisan decision ever. Seven Republicans actually joined the Democrats and voted with them. So you know, to an extent, we're seeing changes in light of the whole Trump era. But the thing is, Trump's legal team were really good in essentially lying in the case. You know, you have
Exactly.
his lawyer, Michael Van der Veen, who essentially just used selective evidence where he essentially took, you know, video evidence of Democrats saying that they were allowing the protest in the George Floyd cases, and then where Trump was, you know, disallowing the protest and calling himself a peaceful protester and all that. And he also claimed that President Trump's first two tweets on the day of the Capitol Hill protest were peaceful. You know, he said they were saying, you know, stay, go home, don't protest, don't be violent, which in fact was a lie, because his first one was actually talking about Mike Pence, and as we know, there were people in the Capitol that were walking through and they were saying, we want to hang Mike Pence. They were calling for Mike Pence. It was very scary and kind of animal-like. But yeah, and it was all fueled by Donald Trump's tweet where he said that Mike Pence lacked the courage to do what should have been done to protect the country.
And we heard, wasn't it? There was an argument of a freedom of speech in terms of Trump's tweets and what he said about the situation, saying he never encouraged any of the rioting. That wasn't something that he was happy about. Essentially, when we did see him tweet, saying that he had no problem with them rioting. I mean, did we not?
Yeah, of course. I think.
Yeah, I honestly think it was a good decision by social media companies to ban him, because it could have just happened again. If they didn't take the correct action by banning him, he could have caused an even bigger riot that would have caused even more loss of life.
Honestly.
I honestly think that the police officers who put their lives on the line that day to stop the rioters from causing even more damage on Capitol Hill are the real heroes, because I've watched some of the footage from the officer's body cam, and it's honestly scary how beast-like these protesters were, just non-stop,
of course,
ravaging.
Man. It was a
just
terrifying sight. It was a really, really scary sight to see. You know, you have protesters like Mike Angeli, right? Terrifying, carrying a 6-foot spear, wearing face paint, wearing this animalistic hood, right? Terrifying. And then you have, obviously, as you've referenced, the cam of the person in riot gear, and he's trying to close the door and he's being punched. It's horrible, horrible. And it's so crazy that he's, you know, he hasn't been charged, and he can still in 2024 run for presidency. Terrifying, and he will. He's said that he will be back. Terrifying, very scary.
Do you guys see him having another big impact? I think with his acquittal now, he's probably quite confident that he's got a lot of people on his side. So I think it's going to be scary what we see in the coming years from him.
Yeah, especially with the election results not being as much of a landslide as everyone expected it to be, considering his 4-year term, and especially his response to the coronavirus pandemic. I honestly didn't think that it would have been that close.
I definitely think there needs to be a kind of destabilization of his cult-like fan base. There are some really extreme right-wing people out there, and we've seen it in full effect of how ruthless and how devoted they are to this man, how they see him as like this godsend, and how they're committed to doing anything under his word. You know, a couple of years ago when he was, I'm not sure if it was during his 2016 campaign or after he'd won the presidency, Donald Trump even said, you know, I could kill someone and my supporters wouldn't care. And we've clearly seen that that's true. They will follow him through thick and thin. And it's really scary. I think there really needs to be a destabilization of that fan base, you know.
And especially when they misinterpret his statements. Yeah. Like he said, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Now, he said that his lawyers said that he meant it figuratively, but his supporters might have just thought to literally just fight and just cause as much damage as possible.
Well, yeah, there's a massive argument on that side of things. Anything he says, it could be argued either way, couldn't it? You could see his supporters taking it as a call for action, or it could be also argued by Donald saying that, well, obviously no, I didn't mean that. I wasn't encouraging anyone to do anything that was out of reason. And so I think that's where his main argument really came from, and how he managed to get the acquittal after what seemingly should have been
I'm going to be honest, I slightly disagree with both of you there, in a sense that I really think that the thing about Donald Trump is just that he's so smart. He knows the things to say that aren't too explicit, but are implicit enough that people will listen and you know, be weaponized, right? But then he defends himself by saying, well, I didn't really mean that, because, you know, saying fighting like hell, well, that could be figuratively. We've seen stuff like that before the election itself, when he was talking about the Proud Boys and he says, stand by. Now, stand by is something you say to, like an army or something, when you're kind of preparing them to do something.
Yeah.
But obviously he said, it was just his way of telling them to stop what they were doing. So really, I think he's just really, really, as much as we kind of say, this Trump guy is an idiot, he's really, really clever with the selection of language he chooses, which essentially covers his own back, but also allows him to get the message he wants across. So, yeah.
Okay, so what positives has Donald Trump managed to get out of this situation, if any?
Well, I think there's definitely, this is the thing, there's definitely, and I saw this by the turnout, it was almost, it was quite close, and I feel like one of the reasons is, you've seen how quickly he can turn on his own Vice President, Mike Pence, right? In that first tweet he gave on the day, when he said Mike Pence didn't have the courage, and you saw how quickly his supporters were to go, you know what, we're going to hang this guy, fully hang this guy in, full-fledged effect. And that's scary to see. I feel like a lot of Republicans would be terrified by this. They're thinking, well, this man can turn on his own vice president. What is he going to do to me if I vote against him? I feel like there's so much mystery to Trump. He's got ties to every which way, so it is honestly really terrifying. But I think the positives is that you have this kind of this bipartisanship that's really been lacking in the past couple of years, and always kind of been a bit of a problem in American politics. These 7 Republicans, Mitt Romney, Richard Burr, Bill Cassidy, Suzanne Collins, Ben Sasse, Pat Toomey, and Lisa Murkowski all joined the Dems. So I feel like we are seeing strides, albeit slow. But yeah.
Yeah. Would you think that, obviously, because of the power that Donald Trump holds, that's likely had some effect on the Republican Party, obviously his followers? I mean, it would be quite tough to not go against it after what he's done. Obviously, the inciting the Capitol Hill riots, that's not the only thing he's done. He's done so much worse that is not mentioned, really. I think his power, it manages to keep him safe. I wonder how much longer that will go on for.
I honestly, and this is the scary thing, I can't see it going away anytime soon. Honestly, I can't. The fact that he said, I'm coming back, I honestly feel like there's more to see from it.
I honestly think that for him, one of the biggest positives he got out from the Capitol Hill riots was extra publicity and a kind of show of strength to the whole of the US, that his supporters can take down one of the most secure buildings in the whole of America.
Yeah.
Because it's like the equivalent of the UK Parliament, isn't it?
Essentially. And
the fact that they managed to break in
100%,
and take over the whole building.
But touching on that,
it's just insane.
Sorry, go on.
I even saw a picture of one of the protesters in, was it Nancy Pelosi's office, with his feet up on the desk. It's just incredible how much they damaged that and kind of destroyed the whole place.
100%. Touching on that as well, it's really scary, because it's like this guy has done so much bad for the country. Back when he was talking about drinking disinfectant to cure yourself from the coronavirus, back when he was deploying the army against peaceful protesters, he's done so much wrong for the country, and he has this power to be a free man at the end of all of these troubles, you know what I mean? That's terrifying. And what you say about his power over these people is crazy.
This will definitely not be the last time we'll hear about Donald Trump in the news.
Oh, for sure, man. We're only just touching the surface. I'm certain we'll be hearing a lot more in the next few weeks. So make sure to stay tuned for our next episode in 2 weeks' time. And thank you for listening.
Before this podcast comes to an end, I would like to conclude by asking you to drop a like, comment, or subscribe, and to also listen to this emotional message from Armin.
Stay tuned, please. We need you. We need you to listen to us, please. We have no one else, man. Please listen. We have no one else. Otherwise, we're doing this for nothing. I beg you, stay tuned.